somebody took a 5-gallon bucket of water from 2 feet away and just launched it straight into my chest and in my face. And I was like, oh my. What is up, everybody? And welcome back to the Schooling Struggle Podcast. I'm really excited about tonight's conversation. I think it's going to involve some really cool stories. But before we get into that, I want to welcome my co-host, Todd Ellis, to the show. What's up, Todd?
What is happening, Peter? Great to see your face, hear your voice. Your squiggles are looking good. How things been? Good?
Things are good. Things are good for the listeners out there. The squiggle is the quality of the microphone pickup from our voice. And hopefully my squiggles are solid right now. Yours are looking good too.
Solid squiggles.
So you just got back from snowboarding in Washington State?
No, Oregon. Oregon State, Mount Bachelor. We spent 4 or 5 days out there with a couple of my family and a couple of family friends. So
nice. Well, welcome home to
Thanks.
Washington State.
Yeah.
Because you actually did leave the state.
I did, for sure. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Good.
Yep.
So before we get into the conversation, I have something to share that I'm super excited about. It was the end of the school day today. So today was our first day back from holiday break. And it was the end of the day, and I was packing up my space. And a student who I do not teach, but I've been getting to know really well through his interest in the podcast, came into the space. And he was like, "Hey, Mr. D, I just want to let you know, I was just waiting on bated breath all week for the podcast to drop on Sunday. When it dropped on Sunday, I was super fired up." And he just started quoting all these things that we talked about and all these things that he's applying to his life since he listened to some of the stuff that we shared. And it was like this amazing moment for me. This is why I love to do this. I love to share what I'm learning with people so that they can apply whatever they want to their life. And in a past episode, I talked that I'm the type of person that closes my laptop when someone walks into the room. And he bursts into the room and he's like, "Yo, close that laptop. I know you're going to because I'm coming." And we just had an awesome conversation about the content of this podcast. And it was really, really special to me. So John C., thanks for making my day. I'm incredibly grateful for our interaction today. You're awesome.
John C. is going to be smiling right about now. That's great. Thanks, John.
Good stuff. All right. So the focus of tonight's podcast is kind of a little bit of a rambling question, but this is what I want to ask you, Todd. I'd like you to think about a time in your life where you took something on that you knew was going to be challenging. Can be anything. And the challenge that you anticipated was actually not the most challenging aspect of the endeavor, but something that you did not anticipate or foresee in any way, shape, or form became the real struggle of that particular endeavor. And what did you learn through that struggle about yourself or about the endeavor or anything that you learned in any capacity? And I'm going to give you some time to think about it, because I'm going to share one that I think is relevant for my life. And I just think that this is a really cool topic because so many times in life we think we can anticipate a certain struggle and something else pops up. And we have so much to learn from that other thing, that other obstacle, that other struggle that we did not anticipate, if we're willing to go there with our mindset. Do you have any questions about what I'm throwing at you right now?
I have one. And I know you couldn't hear me scratching this time, so that was good because I was scratching way over there. I have a qualifying question. Does the first challenge have to be a struggle?
No.
Okay. Then I'm good to go. You go ahead.
So when I was talking to John C. today, I said, "Hey, I won't be offended or hurt at all if you give me any constructive feedback. Just give me one thing that I can do better on the podcast." And he goes, "Honestly, Mr. D, when you throw 7 or 8 thoughts or questions at Todd at once in one breath, and he doesn't get a chance to answer them until you're all done asking all 7, sometimes it's a little interesting or a little weird. So maybe you can ask him one at a time."
I think we need to have John on the show just for a buffer.
I think so.
Oh, that's good.
I think so. All right. So I'm going to take you on a little ride here. Literally, it was the bike ride that I did in 2008 across the United States. And you can think about, what someone might anticipate as a struggle going into an endeavor like that, right? We planned to average 70 miles a day. We planned to ride through the desert. We planned to ride through the Rockies. who knew what that was going to do to the relationship of my buddy and I? Who knew what that was going to do to our physical capacity? If we're going to get run off the road by trucks or get hurt or hit crazy weather or have crazy bike issues that mechanically we weren't able to fix. There's all these different things that I was worried about and thinking about and getting back on time. And a lot of different things were flowing through my head about what could go wrong with the idea of deciding to ride your bicycle 4,400 miles. And things went well right out of the gate. It was pretty rugged riding through the desert. We rode through Southern California and Arizona in July, something that I would not recommend to anyone, and I'll never do again. But it was 118 degrees 5 days in a row, and we rode through this one town. The only thing they had, out in the middle of nowhere, was this little camper, rent a camper place, and they sold gallons of water for $4 a gallon. And I bought 4 gallons, and I sat there and drank an entire gallon in one shot, and saved the other 3. So that's the kind of stuff that I anticipated being difficult. One thing I did not anticipate was as we came out of the Rockies into the plains and driving through middle America, we encountered long, flat stretches of road. And up until that point, we had zero weather issues, no rain, no thunder. Wind is always an issue when you're riding your bike, and there was always headwinds and stuff. So we're riding through Kansas. And if you haven't been out in Kansas, that is one of the areas of the country where livestock is born, bred, and transported. And there's many semi-trucks, or what we'd call tractor trailers here in New England, that are hauling all different goods across the middle of the country. And it started to rain, started to pour. And we were psyched because we spent a little extra money on buying waterproof bags for all our gear. So our clothes were safe, our tent was safe, all that stuff was safe as we're riding through the weather. And we had this mileage goal that we had to meet for each day. So we were planning on riding through the rain. And when riding through the rain just gets thicker and thicker and heavier to the point where it's pelting down on your face and it hurts. It's pelting down your arms and it hurts. And this tractor trailer comes in the opposite direction. So it's on the other side of the road. And vroom, and it felt like somebody took a 5-gallon bucket of water from 2 feet away and just launched it straight into my chest and in my face. And I was like, oh my, the amount of water that was coming off of this truck was immense. So kind of close my eyes, take the hit. Next truck goes by. Same thing. Boom! All sorts of water. Next truck goes by. Same thing. And for some reason, I don't know why it took me 3 trucks to realize this, but I look down at my arms, and my arms are dripping brown water. And I'm like, what is that? And then I get the smell. I'm like, oh my Lord. These tractor trailers are giant open cages carrying pigs, cows, chickens, and the feces from the trucks are getting washed out by the rain and are spraying out the side of the truck. And if I'm going to be real about this, it would almost be like if somebody pooped in that 5-gallon bucket, peed in that 5-gallon bucket, started around with a stick, and then threw it straight in your face and in your chest.
Can I ask a question?
No. Over and over and over and over and over again. Yes, go ahead and ask your question.
Were you the first biker or the second biker?
It didn't matter because the first biker wouldn't have protected the second biker because it comes from the side.
But were you the first or the second? Because if you were the second, you could watch this happening, and then you know that you're not by yourself.
I was the first biker.
Unfortunate.
And I became laden with anger. I was so frustrated that I was getting crushed in the face and in the chest and in the arms with feces of animals. And I was like, oh my gosh. And all the books I read about preparing to ride cross country and all these things, nothing mentioned this. It just came totally unexpected. And every truck that went by made me more frustrated, more angry, until I realized, and I just took a step back, not physically, but mentally. And I thought to myself, dude, nobody is telling you have to do this. You chose to do this bike ride on your own. You chose to take this on. and nobody is forcing this on you except for yourself. And at that moment, I realized that I had the control of the situation. The situation didn't control me. And every time I rode past a truck and got covered in feces, I just laughed and I laughed and I laughed. And I actually remember it being one of the more memorable, crazy to say, but enjoyable days of that bike ride. And that was a light bulb moment for me in my life, because kind of up until that point, I often lived like a victim mentality. It's like, oh, if something goes wrong, it's my parents' fault. It's the boss's fault. It's the teacher's fault. It's the girlfriend's fault. It's the coach's fault, and I'm in this situation and I'm being treated like this, or this is happening to me. And it was like, holy crap. Like, no, I chose to be in this situation. And how am I going to respond to this? And I responded with laughter, and I had a blast. And yes, I did get covered in feces. No, I did not get sick. Yes, it was one of the few times that I took a shower at the end of the day on that bike ride. But I learned that I choose the situation I'm in way more often than I might think. Right? So like what I learned from that is like, if something isn't going well for me, I have three options. I can either change what I'm doing, like get out and do something entirely different. I can continue to do it, but I'm going to need to adapt. Or I can not change anything and just be miserable. Those are kind of the three options with struggle situations. And I chose to adapt my mindset. I still rode the bike. I still got crushed with feces, but I chose to adapt my mindset and to enjoy and make this a memorable experience. And then I tried to remember all the details so that when I could talk to people, I could share the story. And I just met my handlebars, my gloves, my arms, everything was just covered in poop. And then at the end of the day, when I took my socks off, there was like a poop line on my shin, like because the poop didn't get under my sock. So it was almost like a tan line, but it was a poop line on my legs. And yeah, I at that moment, I took that struggle and was able to realize, like, if I'm in a crappy job, I have one of those three options: to get out, to adapt, or to be miserable. If I'm in a relationship, I can get out, adapt, or be miserable. If I'm in a living situation, whatever, with my fitness, whatever it is, that I have that power. So that was a really cool learning opportunity for me and a very, very memorable day in my life.
I imagine so. What I was talking to somebody earlier at work about this. He's struggling to find. Well, he thinks he knows what his passion is or his purpose, but he's having a hard time aligning that with the work that he does, or he's seeing the two converge. And as we talked through it, I kind of led him to the same thing. Like, you can either find this balance to do these things together. You can leave and go do what you think is right, or you can just suffer. But his immediate response, not immediate, but it was pretty quick, was, but what about all of the things that like this money affords me? Like, you know what I mean? So I wonder, like, it's different for you, not to negate the story, but it's different for you because you're not, like, you've put yourself on a bicycle with, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have anything to lose. You know what I'm saying? So how do you think any differently of that? Like that fear, or did the key three still remain? I mean, eventually.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I have thought about this in many regards. I definitely think once you are responsible for other people's lives, it throws a different variable into it.
Yeah.
If you're responsible for feeding kids, or putting a roof and clothes on your kids, that's a very real thing. But I do think that fear of the unknown keeps us in stagnant places in our life, and that is a hard thing to overcome for many of us. And I'm only talking about my own situation. I'm not going to pass judgment on how anybody else is managing that. And I can definitely see how, and there's a piece of it where, yeah, I might be miserable in my job, but this feeling of providing for my family outweighs that. And I feel purpose and meaning in that. And I think my father was a good example of that. Like, he found purpose and meaning, so it was worth his stress at work to provide for us. Yeah, I definitely think there are many, many variables that play into that. But when all is said and done, what I learned from that and what I try to share with my students is that I think that we have more ownership over our situations in our lives than we might think, or that we might give ourselves credit for.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that was a great a great answer to a untimely question, but it just hit me because it was so different. But it's true. Like it's in the end, and if you're able to back up out of it, like you did right before the maniacal laughter hit, it's like you own the response for all the things. I mean, ultimately, that's the thing, right? And wherever that takes you, then you can begin to have that revelation that I made this happen. Like I'm taking my own path. I'm going my own way because I put my the line in the sand or my whatever, the foot in the door. So, but yeah, I think that a lot of people are definitely struggle with that. They struggle with that fear, and then it makes them stagnant. Yeah, there's complacency in that. So.
I think too, we often get caught up, and I am definitely an example of this. We get caught up in our have tos, and we don't realize that our have tos might actually be choose tos, right? So if I say, well, I have to pay my bills, all right, let's take a look at my bills. Do I need to spend $200 a month on my DirecTV?
Yeah.
Do I need to get the latest iPhone every time it comes out? Do I need to have the nicest car on the block? Like, so these things that I have to pay for, I'm choosing to incorporate them in my life. Do I have to go out to eat multiple times a week or whatever it is for all of us? We think we're all very pragmatic with our expenses in some ways. And then, other people see what we're doing. We're like, oh, that they're not very practical. We're all practical in our own ways, in our own mindset.
Yeah. That brings to mind, I remember I read this article a long time ago I think it was in National Geographic, and the topic was sustainability, I think. And it was kind of at the onset, well, at least in my purview of sustainability, and like when I really kind of captured the idea of waste and power and just how people are just screwing up the entire planet pretty much based on our own ignorance. And there was a woman in there, I can't remember her name. She had in her hand a quart jar, and in this quart jar was a couple of pieces of garbage, and the caption underneath it was, "This is the amount of garbage that this woman has created in 5 years." And I thought to myself, the size of my garbage can that goes out every week is like orders, like exponentially larger than that. And I don't even think twice about it. I'm just like, And so, but it's the same thing. Like it's making that conscious decision of, what is it really that I need? And do I really need to spend that much money, or, and the perspectives too. So yeah, I like how you stated that you wouldn't judge anybody on that. And I think that's a very key point, because it's so easy to look at the neighbor and be like, well, look at their garbage can. Like my neighbor has a dumpster. And you're just like, okay, what's going on here? Right. But
my buddy is trying hard to cut down on his consumerism. And he said that he thinks the best way to have everyone cut down on their consumerism would be to make everybody keep their trash in their yard for an entire year. And then you can empty it once a year.
Yeah, let it pile up.
You'd be surprised at what you would choose not to buy.
Yeah, you'd be surprised if any rats were all over your neighborhood too. Well, at least over here. That's great. Yeah. Did your buddy also have the same experience?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like at the end, mentally, it was big laughing, like, ha ha.
We laughed together. Yeah, because I mean that was the only option, right? Like either that or be miserable,
and that or go mad.
Yeah. My goal is just to keep my mouth closed.
Yeah, and your eyes as much as you can.
That was the goal. Yeah. My head down far enough so it wouldn't go up my nostrils, and to keep my mouth closed.
And that's on the interstate, probably, right? 55 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour. In the Midwest, they go fast.
Yeah, you can. That was not on the interstate, but you can ride out in the interstate in some of those spots. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I got one more. I was interested to see if you had this experience. You might not have. I met a guy at work one time that rode. He started in Washington and then rode across the top of the country. And he said he made it to about the top of, I don't know, maybe in Idaho somewhere, maybe in Washington, where they started popping tires all the time, and they realized it was from the steel belts that would disintegrate on tires, and the little splinters of steel would just annihilate. Like he said, I did all this research and I had no idea that was going to happen. We blew through so many more tires than I ever thought. So I don't know. I wondered.
The tires that I had ended up being fine, but my buddy thought that he could just do it on regular road bike tires, but he had 15 flats in the first week, and it was because the road was so hot it was melting the tires.
Wow!
So we'd actually try to ride on the white line. Right. Yeah. So imagine that. Yeah. And then once he got tires, new tires, like the good ones, he was fine. But one thing that was crazy was we started counting bungee cords. There's just tons of like bungee cords on the side of the road, and it was literally thousands of bungee cords. It was insane.
Yeah, that's funny because when I run, like when I was running distance around town. I just kind of run around town. Pre-pandemic, there was obviously you'd never see a mask, and then like as you watch the news and you see, oh, the numbers are down, like there'd be way more masks on the side of the road, and then oh, the numbers are back up, not so many masks. It was really weird. But it's really funny the things you place your focus on when you're just cruising down the road. So,
yeah, there was a stretch in Arizona where we were trying to pull over like at night to like pitch our tent on the side of the road, and it was a 5-foot swath from the edge of the road 5 feet out for probably 10 miles where it was like just broken glass. I'm not talking about like a couple pieces of broken glass. It was like sand on a beach. Like it was that much. It was probably 100 years worth of broken glass on the side of the road of people just throwing their stuff out. So
wow.
It was wild.
So it wasn't like a truck full of glass got smashed. It was like somebody just goes by here every day with their beer bottles and just chucks glass out. Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. I wrote some good notes about that one. Yeah, so let's start over. What's the question again?
An endeavor or an initiative that you took on in your life expecting one type of challenge and another challenge, an unforeseen challenge, ended up being more of a struggle than the original one that you anticipated.
Yeah, this is a good one. So this involves 2 people in three episodes and a couple of learnings that I didn't take away until finally the last one.
I'm just going to sit back and listen.
So maybe 8 years ago, the week I started CrossFit, we started this like a diet challenge. It was focused on a cleanse, and then to see how much you could invest in yourself through dietary changes to see changes at the end. And so we started on this thing called the Whole30. Go ahead.
Not quite sure if there's any listeners out there that are not familiar with the CrossFit methodology, but essentially CrossFit methodology is a type of fitness that Todd and I have espoused for our lives that have really enhanced our fitness capacity, and it has a spillover effect into our mental as well.
Every facet of your life, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's defined as constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity. And that was the way that we met each other, was through this CrossFit methodology. So it's an integral part of our lives, and we refer to it often, but it's just how we exercise.
I'll drop a link in the show notes. We started this eating challenge, and then this eating challenge linked into a eating and fitness challenge that was sponsored by a company that is long gone now. But and eventually we won the entire thing. Like our gym won $500,000 worth of equipment and like all this stuff. Like we got like a complete remodel, makeover. Like it was epic. And to be part of that,
holy crap!
Yeah, it was really cool. And
that's awesome.
And to be part of that at the onset of my experience in that community was one of the things that kind of cemented me in it. Like, can you see the change in yourself and everybody else around you as you go through this struggle, right? So that was like kind of my first entry into that with how it merged with CrossFit. But anyways, after that ended and we won, everybody kind of was like, oh, well, what are we going to do about this eating thing, right? And so the gym owner, her name's Dawn, her mom had been like preparing meals. They owned a restaurant a long time ago, and so she was like, well, I can cook for you guys, and we'll think about the macronutrients and all the things that go into it, and I'll just make meals on like a subscription service, and you can just pay me. And so every couple days, meals would show up in the fridge at the CrossFit gym, and this went on for, I don't know, maybe another 2 months after that. And at that point, she was getting tired of it, and I was like, well, I got to keep eating this way because I'm not going to go back. I have to keep doing this. And Jocelyn, my wife, she was already cooking for, our family, which is 4 kids and myself and her, in this way. So I was like, well, if Dawn's mom's tired of this, we'll just take this thing over. Right. And we'll just, whatever, people can just pay. It's not really about the money, but we can just keep making meals. So it's like a forcing function to keep us accountable. And so we launched, this huge service of food, and this went on for probably, I don't know, maybe the better part of 6 or 8 months. And she was a full-time nurse at the time. I was full-time, doing my job. And we would come, I remember coming home, and it would be like 1:00. We would be getting started to prepare meals for like, I don't know, 15 to 25 people. And the looks that she shot me, right, were just like, I don't want to be up making, spinach at 2:00 in the morning. I got to get up and go to bed. I mean, I have to get up, go to work at like 9 a.m. And so I'm like, we got this, we can do this. And so that quickly evaporated because, I wanted it to keep going, but I guess the challenge was I saw an effort. I saw a utility in something, right, that was helping other people. And this is a common flaw of mine. That was helping other people. And I just blindlessly thought that she would just go with me, and I just signed her up for that thing. Right. And so it all came to a head. Go ahead.
the sustainable food was not so sustainable on the lifestyle.
Oh, the irony. And so it all came to a head one night. We went camping with family friends, same ones we just went to Bachelor with. And we were camping at a lake, and we somehow got on the topic of, how many meals we had to make the upcoming week or whatever. And she said, how about you just do it? Because I never even signed up for this. And I never even thought about, I had never put those two together. And it was that moment of pause that I was like, oh, like I've clearly trampled on my wife's desires and her time and all this other thing, right? So that all went away after that. We said we can't do this anymore. So there's the second saga, right? And so we told everybody at the gym, okay, we're not going to be able to do these meals, whatever. Here's the deal. And so this is the entry of the cookie story, right? So they're like, what about these cookies?
So you were making cookies in addition to the spinach?
No, it didn't. Well, once in a while, just for like birthdays or something. But then as soon as they realized the meals weren't going to be there, they're like, well, what about those cookies, right? Because, those are good. And so I thought, oh, here's a perfect opportunity for me. I can just get up early in the morning before I go to CrossFit and bake a dozen cookies and just bring you guys cookies.
And they were the paleo cookies?
Paleo cookies, almond butter cookies. And it was my wife, another twist of irony. It's my wife's recipe, right? So I alleviated her from all of her duties, and I said, okay, I'll make these cookies, right? So I went and got all the necessary materials, and I, pretty soon I'm making a dozen cookies. A couple weeks later, it's 2, 3, 4 dozen cookies. Pretty soon, it's like taking me an amount of time in the morning. It's not just whip these in and put them in a bag and take them to the place. And so then other people are like, hey, what about these cookies? So I'm like, oh, there's something to this cookie thing, right? So I'm like, I'm going to start a cookie business. So sure enough, right, I started this cookie business, and I'm doing all these things, right? And then pretty soon I'm like, she's like, hey, what do we do this weekend? I was like, oh, I got to bake cookies. So before you know it, like, I'm like, hey, I know this guy that runs this restaurant, and he's going to let us borrow the his facilities after hours of his restaurant. And I just go there and bake cookies. And then so she didn't say anything. And then sure enough, there we are making cookies. So that just ended like a year ago, right? But again,
how many cookies at the height of it? How many cookies were you churning out?
Oh, a lot. We would have nights where we were making, I don't even countless. So it's 20 times 40. What's 20 times 40? I don't even know.
100.
That's like a standard high quality weeknight was like cookies, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm buying multiple, almond grinders because almond butter is like the main thing, and like, I put on all these hats because I find it challenging. It's like great, like, oh, what's the next challenge? I get to figure it out, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, there she is behind me, and I'm like, man. So I'd done it again, right? And so it's so funny, and so we quit that, and now I didn't even realize it, but now that I think about it in real time, I started the nonprofit CrossFit, at the school, right? And so she's at the high school this afternoon, right before she goes to the other gym, teaching these kids CrossFit at the high school while I'm over here, doing my job at home now. I mean, things have changed, but the same thing. And she's like, I looked at the calendar last night, and it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, high school CrossFit, 3 to 2 to 4 or whatever it is for her.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, wait a minute, I've done it again. And so this is the thing. This is my challenge. Like, this is the struggle, right? What's the second part? Like, so the first part is, what is the challenge, right? Like, so I always have these things that are challenges for me, and I see them as fun to attack myself, or interesting to, pare them down and see if I can make them happen. But what I didn't see coming was I habitually trample my wife, or I don't trample her, but I bring her along. And
sign her up,
and she sometimes doesn't want to do it. But we were both pretty sad when the cookie thing went away. Like, we kept stringing it on for quite a while, but we had quality time together, away from the children and everything, when we would go bake cookies at night. And so it became like this time when we would commingle
at 3 a.m.
No, yeah, I mean, sometimes, but
so there was a time in your life when you were obviously working full time for Microsoft,
still do
parenting,
yeah,
simultaneously working full time, parenting, running this cookie business, running a nonprofit CrossFit after school fitness program,
right,
and working at a different gym as a coach.
Correct. Yep.
And taking classes, right? Are you taking classes?
I wasn't taking classes then, but for a brief time I was at work. But yeah, I signed up for a lot of things.
So when I was like, oh, if there's anyone I'm going to do this podcast with, it's got to be, I think the saying is, if you want something done, find the busiest person because it'll get done.
There it is. So
yeah, man.
But it has to be challenging, like I was saying earlier. But yeah, the biggest lesson I learned out of that, if I have, he quit setting my wife up for things, but yeah, I don't know when that's ever going to come to fruition because I seem to keep on doing it. So it's a good point for me to reflect on that. But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does. And I think part of that navigation of that for me is really, and this took me about 2 years to figure out, but to sit down and write down like really what are my priorities. So what I did one time, and actually wasn't planning on sharing this in this episode, but at one point in my life, I was realizing I was spending time on stuff that I didn't want to do, and I was not spending time doing things that I wanted to do. So I sat down with a piece of paper and I wrote down every single thing that I spend time doing. And it took a little while because it was everything. It was like brushing my teeth, cooking meals, driving, blah, blah, blah. And then I wrote down all the things that I wanted to do that I wasn't doing. Then I went back to my original list and I listed them 1 through whatever it was. Number 1 being the thing I'm spending the most time on. Number 2, the second most time, and so on and so forth. And then I compared what I would wish that list to be versus what it actually was. And then how could I tie in these things that I'm not spending time doing into it? And what that did was just a little process in helping me recognize like truly what are my priorities, and then am I living close to that? And after that, I did that 2 summers ago. And after that, that's been really helpful for me to think about, is this thing that I'm doing in line with who I say I want to be? Unlike you, I go right to, how's my wife going to feel about this? But that's been helpful for me.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I think that's, and I don't know, I know that I don't know enough about it, but it seems to me like you're pretty methodical about things you do. So it's not a surprise that like you would account for your time like that. But I think that for me, I love spontaneity. I love like something new pops up and I'm like, ooh, let's go do that thing. Right. And it's almost, I mean, it's clearly to a fault where it's like, I don't care what it takes. I'm just going to go do that thing. But everything else, I feel like it just self-corrects. Like all the things that weren't a priority fall off because they're no longer my priority. So I think that there's two different camps there.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's not more to explore, because I could definitely have irritated my wife less had I maybe wrote some pros and cons.
But on the other end of it, you know the dedication that your wife has to you and to your marriage. So like those quote unquote obstacles have yielded some really awesome opportunities and experiences for you to realize her commitment to you and to the marriage, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. But on the flip side of that, sometimes I think that it makes it easier to take it for granted. Like, you know what I mean? Like she keeps coming back. Like, how many times are you going to keep doing that? How many times are you going to keep smashing me? I don't know. So it's definitely interesting for me to think about it. So, but thanks for bringing that up, because I hadn't really thought about it in that way. But
well, I think when this episode ends, when you leave the room, you should go give her a hug and say thank you.
We're going to CrossFit where she's coaching, so I'll be sure to do that right when I walk in.
That's awesome.
For sure, yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
That was a good one.
Well, appreciate you sharing the evening.
2 questions, they're great.
Yeah, they are. I never know what's going to come in these conversations.
That's the best part. Remember we tried to write it down for a while? It's like, nah.
Yeah, no, that's not going to fly.
I don't think so.
Good.
Cool. All right.
Well, thank you all for listening.
For sure.
Appreciate your ears. Appreciate your time. Hope you learned a little bit of something from this episode and from our hardships of all the different challenges from along our path, at least from these particular stories.
For sure.
And we are out.
See ya.
Peace.